Uh, I am going to talk in general terms, and hopefully, as Kara said, we'll have an opportunity to make things more specific in the discussion. I'm going to concentrate on the importance of ethical culture. And in relation to good governance, I don't think it is possible to have good governance until and unless we have an ethical culture. An organization cannot slap on a bit of good governance unless the fundamentals are right. So culture is what makes the fundamentals. And if you like, an outcome of a good culture is good governance. Because governance is not only about transparency and openness, it is about performance. Governance allows any entity, whether it is for-profit or not-for-profit, to accomplish objectives. So looking at ethical culture, we do know that in the not-for-profits generally have a more ethical culture than the for-profits. And there are a lot of reasons for that. One may be ideology and the vision and the mission that entities have, the people they attract and the motivations of those people. So we have a number of elements that support a more ethical culture in not-for-profits. But what we are also finding, and that's coming primarily from research from the States, but the ethical culture of not-for-profits is diminishing. And the difference between for-profits and not-for-profits in ethical terms is getting narrower. So there is some shift there as to what is happening in the sector. Another thing that we know about not-for-profits is that people that work for those organizations find it very important that their values are aligned with those of their organization. It is more important for people that are in your sector to feel that what the organization stands for and what it does is in agreement with their own values. And we also know that people in the not-for-profit are more motivated by intrinsic rewards. Not so much money or a bigger office, but the sense of accomplishment and the sense that they are contributing to a good cause, to something that they find worthwhile. So this is just a very, very brief snapshot of some findings that we know about the sector. Now, how do we create an ethical culture, and what is it made of? First of all, I won't give you a lecture on organizational culture, but culture is very difficult to change. And for that reason, anything that happens in the organization colors what culture is about. So anything that happens impacts, and the impact may be very difficult to undo. And Kara mentioned the idea of the importance of trust. I think trust is a fundamental element of a good organizational culture for a number of reasons. Not only it allows openness and transparency, but it allows people to speak up. And good governance requires good risk management, right? We know risk management is a lot more successful if people disclose issues that concern them. It is the most effective way to find out when things go wrong in an entity, whether it is for profit or not for profit. Internal disclosures are more effective than audits or any other form of controls. So if your people feel able to speak up, then you have quite an effective risk management system in place. And that will allow you to have better governance, because any issue that arises will be resolved quite quickly, and it will not be years down the track, as we find in some instances where misconduct is found and addressed. So trust is very important for culture. Leadership is very important. And Kara again mentioned, the idea that what happens at the top and the board and the CEO and the managers. I'm sure we have a lot of leaders in this room, and you're the role models. People look up to you, and people will do what you would expect them to do. And they would do what they think you would expect them to do. not what you think you expect them to do. Okay? So it is very important that you communicate clearly what your expectations are. Because if that is not clear, then people will make assumptions about what you value. And sometimes those assumptions are not right. Another thing with leadership is that it affects not only the culture and the values and the soft side of the organization, but it also affects the formal side. Leaders have the capacity to set rewards, to establish regulations and controls. So as leaders, you have the ability to improve the ethical culture of the organization and the ability to really affect people's behavior. So it is very important that, for leaders, not only that they are good people, which I'm sure we all are, hopefully, but that we exhibit that goodness. It has to be visible, it has to be audible, it has to be in our language, it has to be explicit, because with ethics, we find that sometimes we tend to imply it in organizations. We imply that we want for people to do the right thing, or we imply that it is important. It is more effective if we are explicit about expectations in terms of ethical behavior and reward ethical behavior explicitly, because it was the ethical behavior. Okay, so when we look at the organization, it is a difficult task to align that informal aspect, the values, the way we do things, the way we feel, what we feel matters and what is important, with the formal aspects of the organization. And here it is important that that ethical culture is supported by codes of ethics, where we actually exhibit the values that we have. We have appropriate structures and processes in place. We have the language and the reward mechanisms that support the ethical culture. One sure way to affect trust in organizations is to misalign the formal with the informal. Okay, the rhetoric, what we say and what we have on our webpage and on our annual report, and what we actually do and what matters. And as I said in the beginning, once that trust is broken, it will take a very, very long time for it to be reinstated. And in the meantime, a lot of people will probably go because they miss the alignment between their values and those of the organization. So a lot is at stake. The not-for-profit sector, like all sectors, but I think the not-for-profit sector relies and requires societal support. So it is not only important for each entity's well-being and sustainability to have an ethical culture and good governance, but it is a sectoral issue as well, because one entity misbehaving affects the reputation of all. I'll stop here and I look forward to our discussion. Thank you.